Welcome to the Modern Drummer Podcast. I'm Modern Drummer's CEO, publisher David Frangioni, my co-host Billy Amendola, and we're here featuring the world's most prolific drummers, listening to what they have to say, and bringing to you from inside the studio the world of drumming. Billy?
Hello everyone, Billy Amendola. Tune in to some really interesting facts on the Modern Drummer Podcast.
Welcome, everybody. My co-host, Billy Amendola, and we welcome today Tico Torres. Welcome, Tico.
Hello, yes. Hey, Tico, welcome.
How are you?
Good. How's everybody?
Yeah, good.
Good. So, Tico's always been a favorite of ours, so I don't think he needs much of an introduction. I mean, we've featured him over since the 80s. So, he's well known, and if the younger generation, that's who we really want. So me and Tico go back a couple of years, and I know we know each other for a lot of years. So I'm sorry, Tico, if some of this stuff is going to be redundant, but we want to get you in front of the younger generation and your words of wisdom to.
No, that's about everybody. You know that.
Yeah. We want your words of wisdom, because this is where it comes from. That, everybody that's here now came because of you, influenced by you.
Yes.
Of course, everybody knows from Bon Jovi, he's drumming Bon Jovi since the beginning. I got to ask you a question though, that because I just looked on the Wikipedia, which I'm finding out lately, a lot of things are not correct on there. But this is something I never knew. Did you audition for Kiss when Peter Criss left in 1980?
No, actually, it was in the same studio they were in, and I was doing a record for T. Roth and Another Pretty Face, a New York-based band. Ace Frehley walked in, and he says, "Chris is leaving the band. Do you want to join?" And offered me some kind of like Mercedes and a bunch of money, and I turned it down. So no, I never really tried out for it.
Oh yeah, because that's something I never knew that. That was something I didn't even know was out there in the world.
It's not one of those things that you publicize. It came next door into our studio and asked me if I was interested in playing.
But that's a great story. Now, did you turn it down because you didn't want to wear the makeup, or you don't even want to talk about it?
Well, first of all, that's one, because in those days you had to wear makeup and nobody knows who you are. I go, well, shit, I've been doing this 15, 16 years so people know who I am. I said, it's the purpose, And besides, I was just doing a record right there for a band that I liked at the time. So, yeah, no,
okay.
It wasn't my thing.
now I'm going to go back to this because I want everybody. This is when I became aware of you. I want everybody to know about this. Except I noticed today when I went looking, you have a cigarette in your mouth.
Well, I got that from Elvin Jones. I learned everything from Elvin. I mean,
We're going to talk about that. Your jazz. Well, for those who don't know, this is Frankie and the Knockouts. They had a big song called Sweetheart, but Tico joined after that, and he was on this album, which is one of my favorites. And that's when I became aware of Tico, and I became a fan of his. So I've been a fan of his playing since before Bon Jovi. So talking about jazz, because you and David have this in common. I know you were very into jazz, which we've been talking about a lot, how so many rock guys like Hal Blaine and all those guys, got so much work because they were jazz guys and nobody wanted to play rock and roll because they were looked down upon. But I know a lot of people wouldn't realize how much you're into jazz because you're in one of the biggest rock bands in the world. And you and David took lessons off of Joe Morello. Why don't you guys talk about that?
Oh, you studied with Joe?
Yeah, actually, became good friends because he was teaching at Dawn and Kirshner, right? And he was still on the road with Bruce Bexa, but whenever he was home, he was teaching there. And I walked in there. I said, "Let me check him out," because I really was hanging out a lot with Elvin Jones, and in a lot of ways he taught me so much. But so I went to see him, and I noticed in his room he had a leak in the ceiling. And of course, I'm an old roofer. I did that for 5 years. So I said, I can fix that for you. And I was 21, 22. And I came there with the truck, the ladder, and fixed the leak. And he says, and we became friends after that for forever. And, he said, well, anything you want, free. I fixed his roof.
That's awesome. And so did you study with him and go through technique of rebound and all of the things that he really was an expert in?
Not really. I mean, what we did was talk theory and music. We became more friends than a teacher and student thing. Like Elvin, he never tried to. He goes, "You can play drums." He goes, I want you to see why I play what I play against McCoy Tyner or Goodman when he's playing the sax. He wanted to explore that with me, and I was more interested in that as well, not so much the actual chops. And
that's a good point, because I always felt a lot of times you learn just as much, if not more, as we're saying, when you just speak to somebody who's you're learning from, because you like you said, you already play, so you can listen to their records and study them that way, but to listen to their experiences and to feel like you're experiencing what they experience, or they're giving you tips. Sometimes the conversation is just as important in learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd sat every time Elvin played in the city, I'd sit next to him at the Vanguard, right next to him, and literally hand him gin and tonics, of course, and cigarettes, and just hawk them for hours and days upon days. It's just best way to learn, and then have a conversation with him, So it was like, and I went to his brother's studio to actually take lessons, and he heard me play. He goes, "You don't need lessons. We talked about music." He said, "Maybe you need this," and that was very helpful for me. Yeah, the conversation.
And then Tico, you would go back after being inspired by Elvin and sitting there and watching him and taking all that in. You would then go back in and you would play Elvin kind of stuff. Were you into Coltrane and playing like Elvin, at least to learn from there and then build into your approach to rock?
Yeah, I was in jazz bands. We had upright bass player, keyboard player. I played with Joe Pass. He would sit in a lot. And I was in a band with Willie Bridges. He did a record. I didn't play on a record, but we ended up playing Calls Off the Corner. And he was managed by the Pips. And that's where I met Miles Davis and Ron Carter, because it was up in Harlem, and I was like the only white dude there. And they would say, you ain't the most technical guy in town, but you got good feel. And I would just play with guys that are 30, 40 years older than me. And that's how you learn. I mean, God, I was a kid, just a sponge. So I was actually in it. in it as deep as you can be. And then, I got into Ornette Coleman. I went to see, one of the nicest things about living close to New York or in New York is you could see everybody. You go see Ornette Coleman one day, you can see Frank Zappa the next. I lived in those clubs so much. I mean, to me, I got into the jazz rock drummers like John Heisman from Coliseum, from Europe, and their rudiment system's different than ours. They attack the ball differently, lefty more than righty. So there's a lot to learn, But the jazz thing, I think, was important for me because of the freedom and the creativity that you could it's pure high. It's you don't need drugs, you don't need anything. That's the stuff that used to get me really off. And then the learning techniques to be able to now when you apply it to a rock and roll band, you don't have to overplay it. You just have to maybe underplay it sometimes and just add just a little innuendo because you're trying to make the song work. And that helped me a lot.
And how did you become such a great song drummer, as we call them?
I made a decision, I think, a long time ago not to be a drummer's drummer. And because I would practice my ass off and sit for like everybody else, 4, 5, 6 hours a day. And then that was enough, but I didn't want to go out there and be the drummer's drummer. I want to be the musician. I want to be able to play in bands and make music. So I would listen to whatever the instruments are playing, whether it's the keyboards, who's taking that lead at the time, the singer, the saxophone, the guitar, whatever, and always work with the bass player. And sometimes not play with the bass player, play against them, to just give it another dimension, space. And I thought it was more important to make music and talk with other musicians. I played in Sweden. I got a record in '75, and I realized that they look at jazz and R&B a lot different there. And it took a while to get this upright bass player to sweat. After about an hour and a half, he started getting into it, but it changed. He changed his demeanor. It wasn't just playing notes. It wasn't being technical. It was about actually feeling it. So I think I did that a long time ago. I decided to do that.
Where did Hector is your real name, but where did Tico come from?
My mother called me Tico. It's little Hector.
Little Hector.
Yeah, Tico. And then it's phonetically, I grew up in an Italian-Irish neighborhood, and they call me Tico. So that stuck. And my son's name Hector. And around that time there was a comic called Hector Heathcote. And I used to get crap from all the kids on that one.
When did it occur that you went from being so into jazz, playing jazz, and that was really the style that you were as a drummer, to rock and then Bon Jovi? Like, what were those steps?
Well, I did them both. I did them both. I was into rock from the beginning. So I grew up learning with the Beatles, like everybody else, with Jimi Hendrix, and finally get to play in a band with Noel Redding years down the line. But all that kind of stuff, I always loved rock. I just thought that some of the rock musicians took it a little further, and of course you could listen to records like King Crimson, and you listen to Yes, and you go, these guys did it in their own way, and where they incorporated jazz rock feel. But I think rock and roll was always in my system. What it did, it just made me a better drummer, getting into jazz. And then, I would do gigs, anything that would pay. I mean, I'd do a Wonderberg commercial, or I'd play with the Marvelettes, or go on the road with them, or Lou Christie, or Leslie Gore. I worked with them all, because it was just a way to pay bills.
Right. You were a true musician. I mean, you were out there working.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, what it's like.
Yeah. And when you, how did it feel though, when you met John and like, here's this kid and, you're already pretty established, and now here's this kid from New Jersey. Of course, nobody knew what he was going to turn into, besides a sex symbol. I mean, obviously, he was so good looking, we knew that might have happened. But as far as a musician and becoming the star that he was almost, you had a good 10 years on him, right? So to him, he was like a kid to you. How did that?
He's got 9 years on him, yeah. Well, the bass player, Alec, I grew up with him. And we had a band together when I was 16. Of course, he was older, and I always played with guys that were older. And so I knew Alec, and Alec's the one that called me to check this out. was right down the street. Just got out of Knockouts. Knockouts broke up. Our label folded, and so we just had a pizza and broke up. And I was getting a call from Richie Blackmore, and Ron Anelli was leaving the band and said, "Look, it's an opening. You want to play?" And I just got off the road. And at the same time, I got the call from Alec, and this was literally 10 minutes from where I lived in First Amboy. And I went down and checked it out, and I said, "You know what? It's not the best singer in the world. It's not the greatest band in the world, but I tell you, this kid's a star." And I just saw his charisma. So I took a chance. I took a chance, and and it was, we got Richie, and we put a band together, and then it kind of it started to make sense. And then, worked hard, and people knew me in the industry. They would come down from Polydor Records and check out the band, because I think he had some kind of single deal with Atlantic that he won a contest. And, but he wanted to go and see if we can get other deals. And so Derek Schumann, which is actually the bass player from Gentle Giant, is the guy who signed us.
Wow. Yeah, that hit. And then, of course, and that's amazing. Like, I guess your gut feeling was, yeah, let me take a chance on this. And I mean, I love that, because that's how things lead to another. I mean, who would have known if you didn't feel like, nah, I'm not going to do that. This is a kid. What's going to happen with this kid? I'm already successful, So that was, God bless.
Well, it's even bigger than that, because you're being tempted by an international rock god, Richie Blackmore, and coming off of Deep Purple and Rainbow, and they were really established. So, I mean, it was really like one extreme or the other. Are you going to go with a startup, or are you going to go with something more established? And was the first album out, or was this before Runaway and like when it really started to happen?
There was no album. There was just a single that he recorded called Runaway. And,
okay.
And that was it. That was the basis. He won a contest, AW.
Yeah, he won a contest on one of the, I think it was WAP or whatever it was here,
WAP.
Local station. Yeah. And because he worked at his uncle's studio. Everybody knows that story. And then he did that single, and it took off. You're on that. You play on that.
I didn't play on the album.
Did you play on Runaway?
No, I did not. No,
okay.
Nobody. Actually, the only guy who played on there was Huey McDonald, bass player.
Oh, okay.
Because that was just a bunch of session guys that his uncle put together.
Who did? Do you know who played drums on that?
No,
I don't even know.
No.
That's a good question we can put up for Modern Drummer when we run a contest.
and then you guys got the deal, and then the records, and then the whole thing started.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was married. I lived in the house. These guys lived with their parents. So I mean, I had to work a lot in between to try to pay bills. And it wasn't until the third record hit. So needless to say, the wife got pissed off and left. and so I said, okay, sell the house, and I was just basically on the road then. So it took a couple of albums, the third album to actually hit, and it was the help of a Doc McGee manager to book us everywhere. And because we worked everywhere with Japan, we toured with everybody, and then we were touring with 38 Special when the album Slippery When Wet hit #1. And when that did that, we went on our own since then. But it was a gamble. But it took 3 albums for us to find ourselves.
When you made Slippery When Wet, and you're saying the band was finding itself, and of course it turns out to be this huge hit, but when you made it, did you have a feeling like, wow, this is really, we really got something? Because the songs are so good, and you're playing on it is fabulous. You're playing on all the records is fabulous, but you can hear the maturation. You can hear how things are getting tighter, and the parts are getting more well sculpted, and it's just really, that record's just a brilliant, brilliant record. Did you feel that way when you guys were in Vancouver and it was coming together?
It was actually very easy to do. A lot of those songs were 1 or 2 takes. And when you do a song that's 1 or 2 takes, I mean, like Wanted was 1 take. We couldn't get it. We went out to get dinner and had a couple of drinks, came back at like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and banged it in 1 take. But a lot of those songs were 1, 2 takes because the songs were right. They were felt right. And sometimes it's when it comes easy, it's because it's good. A lot of times when you really have to work and work, you're trying to shine something that isn't quite as good, and everybody goes through that, but this was one of those records that I mean, we did the rhythm tracks in 3 days, 3.5 days.
The whole record.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, great.
That's
And
great.
you guys were obviously well rehearsed then as well. You knew the tunes and you could just play them down.
That was key. That was key to actually do all the parts and writing and put it all together before you go in there. And we've always done that pretty much because it's just why waste studio time? And there's certain magics that come out of the studio, of course, but it's nice to have a basis. And, you know, it's also nice. Some bands, you know, they're able to do a record live, do it for several months and then record it, which again could be a beauty to it because now it's just really honed in. Or it could also be overplayed. You know, that's the bad side. But that, you know, we've never done that, but I think it'd be fun to do that.
What blows me away, Tico, is that your background in playing parallel jazz and rock, and the jazz side, when you think about Elvin and the music of Miles Davis and all these different groups, it's so far out there. You go from here to the moon and back, and everybody is interacting in a, you know, in a lot of musical notes and playing. And then you listen to your playing with Bon Jovi, and it's just the perfect playing for rock. It's restrained, but it's perfect, really. It's just what the music needs. And how did you develop the mindset to be able to just be so on in a rock setting when on the other side of the stage playing jazz stuff, it's so different? And a lot of drummers, when they get in the rock setting, there's all these little things that they put in that overplay that style because they're coming from a music. It's just ingrained to be playing off of all the instruments, but you nail it.
Yeah, I think you have to be the song. You have to be that song. You can't say, well, I want to do Living on a Prayer, but I'm going to play more like Keep the Faith. It just doesn't work. or Giant Steps. It just doesn't work. You know, it's like now I'm being a drummer's drummer. Now I'm showing off my chops. So, I mean, sometimes you just put one hit somewhere or a triplet just to build something up and it goes, geez, that just made a song, you know, and then it's really the producer's job to let that happen. You know, that's key to untie the hands of the musician, which I always thought like Clint Eastwood's very good that way with his actors. You know, he just goes, hey, you act, I'll do the rest. And same thing with music. You play, I'll do the rest. So Bruce Fairbairn was really a good that way. He was a trumpet player, jazz trumpet player, but he knew how to step out of the way and give direction where needed.
And that's where producers are important because you need those. You're too close to it all the time, so you need those extra ears and bounce off different ideas with somebody outside of the band. So that producers are very, very, very important. Who gave you the nickname the Hitman?
Well, I used to be the Heartbeat and Frankie and the Knockout, so I guess the Hitman came from I guess John. John,
right? I think so. I think you said that once before.
Yeah. And then Frankie and the Knockouts, Frankie used to call me the Heartbeat.
Frankie, actually, he just friended me on Facebook, actually.
He's a good guy. I love Frankie. He's such a good guy.
Great songwriter, man. I mean, he just had a big charity thing. I think we even ran something for him online.
He's a hardworking guy, dude. Really is.
Now, when you look back, because I've been, we've all been stuck in the house, and I've been watching MTV, and I'm happy that they went back to MTV Classics, and every Sunday the whole day is all old videos. And yesterday, a couple of Bon Jovi videos came on from the 80s, and I'm looking at them, and I've seen you so many times. I've sat on the side of the stage watching you. I've sat at Today Show with you, so I'm a big fan of your drummer. But I'm watching these videos, and I'm looking and I'm saying to myself, my God, at one time, this was like the biggest thing on the planet. Does that feel like another lifetime to you, or when you look back? Do you look back at those videos sometimes? Like, what runs through your head when you look back on those days?
Actually, I just started looking at a couple because I haven't seen them in years. I got to laugh at most of them. It's pretty funny.
You mean when John's flying through the air?
No, I mean all of us. We were dressed like clowns, but it kind of worked for those days. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. And then, of course, videos and the first Runaway one was like this fire starter thing with the girl's fire coming out her eyes. I mean, you know, it's a $2 video, obviously. And we just got to laugh at those things, you know. But it was a new medium, you know. Again, you know, you could make a video for $30, $40, $50,000, and Michael Jackson goes by, does one for $1 million. All of a sudden, everybody's charging $1 million, and it's like, are you kidding me? You know, of course, it's all recoupable. So, you know, it's we're you caught between you know, you're in a hard place there, you know, trying to make that happen.
Well, the reality is, from a standpoint of when those videos came out and they were top 40 and current, and now you guys are still playing stadiums. A few years ago, Bon Jovi was the biggest act in live music. So, I mean, you're still playing to even bigger crowds. So the momentum's only grown from there. And with your playing, I've had the privilege of seeing you live in all of these different generations. I saw you on the Slippery When Wet tour. You guys did 3 nights at Great Woods at the time. I saw one of those all the way up through a couple tours ago. And your playing is still, I mean, it gets better all the time, but you've always had a discipline where it's perfect for the song. So when I saw you then, and then I saw you 10 years later, and I just saw you a few years ago now, it's just really reliable, perfect playing. And, you know, I mean, I think there's got to be a mindset, an approach to that, to be that consistent. And to just, I mean, it just sounds to me from what you're sharing, you're just, your zone is always in the song, which is why every time I hear you play the song, it sounds perfect for the song.
Right.
You know, that's a discipline, you know, because a lot of guys I see play who have careers that go on as long as yours has with that kind of success. And when you see them on like the fifth time, they're playing all over the place. They're just tired of playing the song. So now the song starts to have all these new drumistic little pieces, so it's interesting to them, but to the audience are like, oh wait, what happened to that fill, and what, you know, why isn't he going to the bell, you know? But when I heard you all those times, it's the same, it's spot on. And to me as a fan, and not take my drummer hat off and put my Bon Jovi fan hat on, it was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, look, whenever I got to see bands, and I'd want to hear those certain songs, and I want to hear the guitar riff the way it's done, because it worked on a record. It just sinks to me. I mean, and same with rhythms and vocal patterns. But it's also nice to see it go somewhere else, you know. But I think you have to be true to the song and the fans. You know, I mean, look, the reason I guess we're still very popular and be able to do stadiums around the world is because we give our fans what you're used to having, right? And then with just slight embellishments, and then sometimes we'll elongate songs and do stuff live, but then give them new material that we're growing. So they're not, you know, we just released a record in October and it's quite different, you know, but we had to say something about what's going on. We did.
Right. If somebody told you in your youngest self that you're going to have a number one country song one day, you would have said, okay, yeah, right.
Yeah, go figure. That's pretty amazing.
You know, I remember one conversation, because I know you're into Latin music a lot and percussion. I know, and we spoke about this, me and you, so many times, and we spoke about, oh my God, years ago. Remember I asked you if you were going to do any solo records, because I think John was just making his first solo record. He was starting to get into movies, or, you know, and I said, you know, are you going to make a solo record? And you said, we spoke about, you wanted to do something with like very organically. I don't know if you remember this, with organic percussion, like not real percussion type stuff, but just find things that sounded percussive and make a very like percussion type record. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was my mindset at the time. I mean, I built a lot of stuff in my percussions.
Right, that's right.
I made most of them. And I used a lot of them, and I lost a lot of them. I don't know what happened to half the stuff. It's, you know, when you go to different places and keep them in lockups, you lose things. But I always enjoyed you know, I work with the indigenous tribes. I'm on the board of the Amazon Conservation Team. So I go there and I want to hear their sounds in the jungle, and they want to hear my sounds. And we kind of I make sounds on rocks and stuff like this with them. And it's interesting what you can make sound with, you know. I love Latin because I grew up Latin. myself, but more with American music because we never played that much music in my house in New York City. I did have the opportunity to play with Celia Cruz and Cachao and Miami Philharmonic 72-piece orchestra. Did a gig for about an hour and 15 minutes and one rehearsal. It was like unbelievable, you know. And my uncle said, "I don't know Bon Jovi, now you made it." Because I mean, when you have the Queen of Cuba and the guy who invented the mambo, and you're playing with him, you know, it was probably the best Latin gig I've ever done.
Is that recorded anywhere? That's incredible.
Well, as you know, that the Philharmonic doesn't allow recordings. There is no recording of that. No, it's weird. I mean, I flew in. God, it was probably 1998 I did it, but I flew in for one rehearsal with the orchestra. And I came back a month later and just jumped in and did it. And then my drum set was set up front. Cachao was next to me. And right next to me was Celia. So I was right up front. I had 5 percussionists and another 68-piece orchestra behind it. It was like crazy. I wish there was a recording, but, you know, unfortunately, they don't let you do that, you know, in concert halls.
What a memory, though, and an experience.
Yeah. No, I found a newspaper clipping. That was it. You know?
Tico, what are you playing for drums and cymbals nowadays? What's your setup?
DW and pasty. You know, I mean, I love the DW drums. I love the sound of them. You know, I
know you started with Pearl, right?
I started with Pearl. I mean, they gave me an unprecedented contract years ago, and I gave them their first gold record they ever had. So, I mean, so when I walked in, you know, they were together 30 years, whatever, and they never had a gold record in Japan. And we of course became very huge in Japan. So they treated me very well. And, but you know, it got to a point where, you know, all the people you work with retired and they're gone and they're not in your life anymore. So it changed for me. So I needed to go back to the original drum set I had was a DW that I used to have with Frangioni Knockouts, was a DW kit. And they since perfected not only the shells were always great, but they perfected the hardware. And I was just, you know, give my buddy a call and he set me up, and they're beautiful sounding drums. They're probably the best things I ever played.
Yeah, and you always played Paiste? That's your cymbal of choice?
Yeah. You know, like everybody before Paiste, Zildjian was, you know, you're talking in the 60s where you'd have to try 20, 30 of them if you had them that many to find one you liked. It wasn't consistent. As a matter of fact, cute story. I was playing in a club band and I was in East Orange. I was packing up, and who was coming in that night was the Buddy Rich band. And Buddy Rich, so I didn't pack up the night before. When I finished, I packed up the next day. And Buddy Rich, I hear him downstairs yelling at somebody in the basement. And he came upstairs and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And blah, blah, blah. He goes, "Hey, could you use those cymbals?" And my Zildjians were all cracked. And he went down and started doing something else. Then came back and said, "Look," he gave me a card. He goes, "Go to this Bayonne bus station, ask for Sal, take 2 cymbals, my gift to you."
Wow.
How about that? So I went to the bus station in Bayonne, and it had these lofts up top. And he kept all this stuff. The guy kept all his kit right there, I guess, for New York and that area. And opened up. He goes, "You can take 2 cymbals." He opened up a trap case, took 2. It was the nicest thing, you know. And everybody talks so badly of him. I go, "The guy's a great guy," you know. But I guess he felt sorry for me.
That's a great story. That's a great memory too.
What a big heart.
Oh yeah, unbelievable.
Buddy, yeah, certain people. I always had a good relationship. I met him a couple of times and hung out with him a few times, and he was always nice to me. So when all that stuff came out later on, I was surprised. You know, I guess, and I was a little kid, so maybe, you know, I didn't see that side of him because I guess he wasn't going to yell at me. I didn't do anything to have him yell at me, but he did go out of his way to be nice to me. So
I met him when I was 15, and he was really. I went back on the bus with him and hung out with him for a bit. Lenny Deluzio and Armin Zildjian were there. He was very nice to me. He was a really good guy. I was nobody, just a little kid that was a big fan.
I think he just he got a bad rap. Once, you know what it's like. Once somebody starts with the whole, you know, and then they found those bus tapes, and you know they turn it into a whole big thing. But that's a great story. That's a great memory too. Do you have those cymbals? Don't tell me you got rid of them.
Of course I got rid of them. These cymbals are like a hammer, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't collect drums. To me, they're tools, you know?
All your kits and cymbals, like just in general, when you're finished, you're finished. On to the next one.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. I got a bunch in storage. I've given some to people and charities mainly. Yeah. They're tools.
Yeah.
You don't have, to me, the value of like guitars became like this super thing, like $3 million Les Pauls and stuff like that. Drums aren't that way. The drums are, it's a car that always runs.
And you always play double bass, right? So your DW kit's double bass, DW snare, 2 racks.
Yeah, kind of simple kit. 2 floors.
Now you have a custom kit though, right? Didn't they make 2 years ago or something? They made you a custom, right? Custom kit.
Yeah, 4 years ago. Yeah,
4 years ago.
I got 2 of them. It's like one's for the studio and rehearsals, and the other one's for on the road.
And did John Douglas do artwork on the latest kit?
He painted them. Yeah, he did a wonderful job. He did a beautiful job painting them, because I had a line of baby clothes, and I had these logos and the way it's painted. So I sent them a lot of information that I had, and he kind of emulated that, because we're both artists. So, but I refuse to pay my own drum set. So.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up. I wanted to let people know that you're a really good artist, and about the Rockstar Baby clothes. What made you do that, the Rockstar Baby clothes?
You ever try to buy clothes for kids and they got pink and blue, and that's it? I mean, that's not cool. So I said, I guess I got to start a line. So my grandmother is a seamstress. She made all my stage clothes. Even in Bon Jovi, all the stuff you wore was handmade by her. I would pick out the materials and stuff until she passed away at 103.
Oh, God bless. God bless.
Like 1993, something like that. So all of my clothes were handmade. So it's not that far away. I was an upholsterer too, so I learned how to do all that stuff as well. Just to make my own baby line. And I did that for quite a while. I had a store in Lolita. Used to be old Def Jam recording studio. I took that over and made that a store. And then I started a line in Europe, which was furniture, carpeting, and I would always give a portion to children. So it was fun clothes.
Yeah, and then artists. I've seen your artwork. I love your artwork.
Yeah, that's my other life. I was, I had my own gallery in Palm Beach for a couple of years, and I painted since I was 5. I used to give them out as gifts, and then I got serious and had started showing in Soho. When Soho was actually full of artists, now it's not, has become something else.
Right.
And you're still doing it, of course, right? You're still painting.
Yeah, still doing it. Yeah. But at one point we were off, and it was encapsulating my whole life, the art. I had to make a decision whether I wanted to go back into music or just, stay with the art.
Wow. Before we let you go, of course, I know you guys were supposed to be on tour this year and last year, right? And any updates for, because I know it's still hard to say because nobody still knows what's going on. But
the only thing we could do now, Billy, is we're looking at 2022. And the only reason is because this thing has to be gone, has to be away, has to be in Europe. They're way behind the United States, Europe. You have to look at Australia, Asia, and Europe differently than America. But everything has to, until the day you can walk into a football stadium or a basketball game and go sit next to everybody and watch it. You're not going to see rock and roll shows from us because it doesn't make sense. You can't play for 25 people or 25% audiences, 50% audience. You got to play for everybody. So hopefully we could, by 2022, fall of 2022, maybe we could get it together for that. We're not alone. I mean, every band I'm sure wants to do that.
Yeah, no, I know, and it's hard, and nobody can put their finger on it because just when you take 2 steps forward, it's 2 steps back. It's like it's a scary situation. But yeah, now what about new music? Is it going to be?
We just released a new record, so that's enough for now. That's it's called Bon Jovi 2020. And we had it done last year, and then we added a couple other songs, and it's really pretty much a socially conscious record. For a lot of things that happened in the last 3-4 years. So, it's got some good messages. And so we put that out in October. We did a live version of it in Nashville. And that's it, pretty much. No music. Right now, we're just going to concentrate on, we'll get together and rehearse once in a while. And
beautiful. Well, I want to thank
everybody else.
I know. This last year is just, but it's getting better. We're all going to think positive, and we're all going to pray. And did you get your shots?
Yeah, I did in January.
Good.
Yeah, I did a bunch of shots in January. Florida's been very good that way.
Yeah, I'm fully vaccinated too. It's great.
Yeah,
here.
thank God. Everybody, please, everybody. I know some people are against the shots, but don't take my word for it. Take the scientist's word. Just please, let's get this thing over and done with.
Yeah, the science is pretty good. I kind of like the genetics of the new stuff and how it works. And then hopefully all vaccinations will be that format, because to me, it's genius. It's cleaner, better. And, we have to be ready for the next one, but
Right.
if you're ready for it, you could actually do something about it before it gets to that point, but yeah, what we can do is stay safe and positive.
That's right. Well,
I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. You're always relevant. So it's, and we all love you at Modern Drummer. Our readers love you, as you know, and you've always
Thank
been.
you for having me. It's very sweet. I appreciate it. And I'm glad about all the stuff you guys are doing. It's not easy to do what you're doing under these circumstances, but you're getting the word out, and that's important.
Yeah. I'll tell you a quick thing. David, because I want people watching the podcast to know, because we have to make it clear. David took over the company completely last February, 3 weeks before the pandemic hit. So he has owned and taken Modern Drummer under his wing through. We're still in the pandemic, so you could just imagine. So everybody out there, relax. Modern Drummer is not going away. We're going to come. We're already coming back stronger and healthier, and things are going to be. We're going to do our best to keep all our fans happy and our readers, and we appreciate your support. I mean, that's we're all in this together. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, guys. It's really wonderful to see you, and thanks for having me. Really.
Yeah.
thank you, Tico. Thank you. Great words of wisdom, and very inspired by your playing for many, many years. And it's great to see you doing better than ever and staying strong, especially under all the circumstances. And thank you, everybody, for being supportive of Modern Drummer. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Tico Torres of Bon Jovi, and I want to congratulate Modern Drummer on a fantastic run. It's one of my favorite magazines because I could always find about some great drummers that are in there, who's new, some of the greats that are from the past, their styles, inept, interviews to find out really about the person if you never get a chance to meet him. It's an encyclopedia for drummers. Has whenever there's new equipment, people advertise there, and you can see what's going on. It's a fantastic magazine. I hope it stays out forever. Can't do it without you, my friends. You're the best.
Goes away, I left mine all over you. I'll take the blame. Ask me how, ask me what, ask me why, baby. That's what the water made me. That's who I am, what I'll be. That's what the that's what the water made. Did her lie?
So everybody, stay healthy, stay strong, keep drumming, and we'll see you next time on the Modern Drummer Podcast.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.